Howdy, and welcome to At Ease with President Mark Welsh. I'm Susan Balabina, and I have the honor of being the Chief of Staff. President Welsh.
That's Dr.
Dr. Welsh. So I know some of our fans watch and some listen. For those that are listening, we've had a special day. We are in our white doctor coats today because we have wrapped up our spring college and school visits with a trip to the College of Medicine. We've learned all sorts of things and are now honorary doctors. They didn't actually say that, but I think if they gave us a doctor coat, that's what we can assume, correct?
Oh, yeah, that's what they meant.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So for everybody's awareness and comfort, we have both learned a lot of things today, including how to stop the bleed. So I now know, as do you, how to use a tourniquet. So everybody around here is in good hands, right?
Excellent hands. Dr. Balabina now has a tourniquet, and she's loose in the office with it.
Yeah.
So,
watch out, people.
So be careful.
I'm looking for anybody with a paper cut. So, this was our last college visit, and they have been incredible. So first question is, any reflections from today or from the whole kind of tour around the university that we've done?
Yeah, our faculty are awesome. They're just awesome. They're incredible people. Our staff are just as awesome. They're also incredible people, and our students are awesome. They're going to change the world.
Yep.
It's a remarkable place because we have remarkable people here.
We do. And it was interesting. Everywhere we went, the students just left me feeling, wow, our country, our world is in really good hands.
Yeah, and really glad we didn't have to compete with them.
Right, exactly. They might be a little brighter than we were as college students.
Well, maybe not you, Susan, but for me, they're brighter, better looking, more athletic, more talented. They're more everything. They're really, really impressive.
Well, we'll keep these white coats on as long as we can.
Makes me feel good in a distracting way.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. So the other exciting thing that has happened recently is many commencement ceremonies that you got to participate in. And for me, that's just such an exciting time because you can see the graduates and their families just excited for the future. And you have the honor of participating in most of those ceremonies. So what are your words of wisdom to our most recent graduates as they go out to change the world?
Oh, I don't have much wisdom to offer them. I just offer them a reminder that life's a remarkable thing, but you got to run it at full speed. Don't cheat yourself. I also try and remind them that people in this class are going to do incredible things, just incredible things, and that's why the rest of us are so excited. And I also remind them there's a lot of people who helped them get there, their family, their friends, their faculty, their staff, and that it's probably a good idea, and it's a good time in life to stop and say thanks to the people who helped you get to this point.
That's right. And I would be remiss if I didn't take just a minute to give a shout out to the hundreds of people behind the scenes who helped us graduate 13,000 students over the last week or so. I mean, it is a monumental undertaking, and our team makes it look seamless and makes it a wonderful experience. So we really appreciate them.
Yeah, as a volunteer activity, if you haven't had a chance to see what goes on behind the scenes at graduation, talk to our registrar, Vanessa Heidick, about joining her volunteer team that goes over there and runs these things over and over and over again. Many people on that team have been there for 25, 30 years doing this work, and they come from our faculty, from our staff, from all over the campus. They just do remarkable stuff for really no recognition at all. They just love being there when our students finally reach their goal. So they're cool people.
Yeah, it's rewarding to be over there and be engaged with it and to see it in action. One more question here in this opening segment. You recently announced some administrative structural changes. Talk us through what those were and what your rationale was for that.
One of them was just naming a new permanent director of human relations and organizational effectiveness. And the new director of HROE and vice president of the university is Henry Judah, who had been the interim director of HROE for about 6 months. And the feedback from the folks in HROE, from everybody who's worked with him, from the rest of the cabinet members, is that he did a phenomenal job in that role. And I thought he started a number of things and turned a number of cultural pluses into bigger pluses, enough that I think he deserved the opportunity to keep that role going. And so Henry has stepped into that role permanently and is just off to a phenomenal start. I think the other thing we tried to do is respond to the MGT studies, the quick look assessment, the decisions that came out of that, and we told everybody we were going to reassess things after 2 years. And we've been in the process of doing that. And one of the things I think is missing still is the ability to look at how we use resources to reshape the university after we make decisions to go in a particular direction. And so we formed a new senior vice president position and put Joe Pettibon into that position. Joe will actually oversee the activity of our CFO and the finance team. John Crawford, who will remain a vice president and CFO, and Henry Judah as the HROE director, but he brings them together under the umbrella of strategy and business services. So 2 things they do. Number 1 would be to help improve the business service to everybody on campus provided by HR and I'm going blank here already, by HR and finance, which work so often together on virtually any action that affects people. And the other thing is to create almost a think tank for how do we apply resources in terms of people and money over time to affect change. Joe will lead that effort. He'll be supported by John and Henry and their teams. And day-to-day activity doesn't really change, but the long-term strategic options, excursions, and direction hopefully will change and change in a more common sense way.
Yeah. 3 really just stellar people who working together will really do great things for our university. So that's great. Okay, we will take a quick break and then we'll come back and welcome our guest, Dr. Nathan Tichenor. He's the Chief Research Officer at the Bush Combat Development Complex and a Research Associate Professor in Aerospace Engineering in the College of Engineering. So we'll be right back.
Did you know KAMU Studios offers 14 original shows? All of these locally hosted productions are featured on our local shows, series, and podcast webpage. Topics cover Texas A&M, art, politics, music, books, gardening, community issues, and more. Find what interests you on our website, then listen on your favorite podcast platform. Go to tx.ag/KAMU FM shows and start listening today.
Howdy, and welcome back. I'm here, as Susan mentioned to you a moment ago, with Dr. Nathan Tichenor. Nathan is the Chief Research Officer and Director of Hypersonic Facilities at the George H.W. Bush Combat Development Complex, and a great guy, a great Aggie, and a great scientist. Nathan, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for the opportunity. I greatly appreciate it.
Why don't you tell people what the Bush Combat Development Complex is?
Sure. So if you think about all the great expertise that we have at A&M, the cutting-edge research that we're doing, out at the Rellis campus provides unique opportunities for us to do bigger and better things that we can't typically do in academic environments. And so, we have this heritage at A&M as a national security, resource. We have this proclivity to serve. And the BCDC is what it's called, was kind of born out of that idea of we have some space, we have national, international expertise here. Let's go after big and better problems to solve big problems for national security. And so we're doing very applied research and testing and developmental efforts out there at the Rellis campus, kind of pushing the edge for national security technologies and accelerating that. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I bet it is if you know what you're doing. You wouldn't want me out there trying it. Talk about hypersonics. You're the director of hypersonics. What does that mean?
Yeah. So hypersonics is, generally speaking, things that go faster than Mach 5, so 5 times the speed of sound. You were in the Air Force, you flew F-16s, right? So if you look at a F-16, which many people may be familiar with, kind of a top speed of about a Mach 2-ish, 1,500 miles per hour. I don't know if you ever flew that fast, but that's kind of the rated speed limit for the F-16. Mach 5 is 5 times the speed of sound. We are doing things Mach 10, so that's like 7,500 miles an hour. So very, very fast. Lots of physics, lots of chemistry when you start going that fast. It's not well understood how vehicles and things respond at those speeds. So there's a lot of cutting edge research that's required to be able to really develop those systems to be able to handle that very abusive environment.
Yep. So what kind of things do you test?
There's a lot of different things. So right now, materials are a big problem, right? A challenge. If you airplanes want to be lightweight, right? So that means that our materials, the systems that we have to be pretty lightweight. Where they have to get up into the air, but they also have to withstand a lot of heating, right? So when they're going that fast, so the pressure, the forces on the vehicle are really high. The heating is really high. You want to be able to control your system and fly it around and do different things. That's challenging at those speeds. All of those things, even communicating with vehicles and things going that fast, are challenging. So, those are different aspects of research that we're currently working on at BCDC and A&M as well, just in general, investigating different aspects for hypersonic technologies.
Yeah. Let's talk about how you got there. Okay, you're an Aggie.
am.
You're a big-time Aggie. Tell us a little bit about your journey to get to
Sure.
this point.
Yeah, so if we rewind the clock, I got all 3 of my degrees here at Texas A&M. And so I bleed maroon, right? I'm an Aggie through and through. If we rewind the clock back in, let's say, 1999 was the first time I came on campus as a junior in high school, coming here to visit the campus for the first time. And that's where I fell in love with the howdy culture, right? The relationships, the welcoming feel of campus was very unique. And I just kind of fell in love with that. I knew I wanted to build fast things. I saw the Blue Angels growing up in Corpus Christi down in South Texas for the first time as a 6-year-old boy, and wanted to build something like those F-18s that were flying over in blue and yellow, right? That's what led me to A&M. That's what led me to aerospace engineering. And I fell in love with the people here. And once I got into it, just kept going. Got my bachelor's, master's, and PhD all in aerospace engineering here at Texas A&M.
So you're from Corpus Christi originally,
I
right?
am. Yes, sir.
Okay, fantastic. That's where my dad's from, Corpus Christi, actually. That's where he ended up going to high school. And great city.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I spent my whole life until I came to A&M in Corpus Christi. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Tremendous. What's the best thing about being an Aggie?
It's the people, for sure. The people, the relationships is by far the best thing about being an Aggie. I love traveling around the world with my Aggie ring on, right? Because inevitably, wherever you are, there's another Aggie that spots that ring from across the hallway or across the airport terminal. They spot you, they make a beeline right towards you, class of whatever, right? And we start having conversations, start talking about being on campus, the Aggie spirit, the football team, ups or downs, whatever. But it's a great relationships of those people, Aggies, old Ags, and current students, and I'm sure future students as well. So it's really the people.
Absolutely. Who are some of your partners out there at RELS in this research?
Yeah, so we work very closely with all the major DoD organizations. BCDC was started up as a response to the strategic relationship with Army Futures Command. So back in 2018, Army Futures Command moved to Austin, established that 4-star command over there in Austin. And A&M was a strategic partner with them, right? So the BCDC stood up in 2019 as this applied research and testing organization to help accelerate those national security technologies that the Army was very interested in developing. Now, we work with a lot of different partners, both industry and national labs and different DoD organizations and DOE organizations. Everybody recognizes the value that the Aggie brand, the Aggie name, and the Bush Combat Development Complex capabilities brings to bear on problems that are really challenging. Yeah, so we work with everybody, and really enjoying the things that we're doing. We're having a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, super. You get students involved in research out there much?
Absolutely. Yeah, we do. The more applied research out there at BCDC, we do have full-time research engineers, full-time research staff, technicians that are more responsive. I am also a faculty member in the aerospace engineering department here, so I have graduate students. I advise undergraduate students as well. Sometimes the nature of the more applied work that we are doing at BCDC doesn't lend itself to academic timescales. When we're talking about a graduate student who's a 2 years or 4 years to try to get a degree, sometimes it doesn't align. So that's why we have these full-time research engineers that are more responsive to the shorter timelines. when we can, I love grabbing students and bringing them in and getting them involved, whether that's in the academic research in aerospace engineering, looking at fundamental physics in a hypersonic wind tunnel, or bringing them out to the RELLIS campus and helping build large-scale test facilities that are unique in the country and in the world, and getting them engaged in that. Often what I say for my students is there's really two jobs that I have as a faculty member. One is to make sure that I'm training them technically, give that technical foundation that they can rely on for the rest of their career. And two is shoot them like a rubber band into the career of their dreams, right? Often I'm dealing with aerospace engineers. Aerospace engineering classes are not the easiest ones, so they just didn't happen to fall into aerospace engineering. They're there for a reason. What's their origin story? Like my Blue Angels, as a 6-year-old boy, every student that I talk to has some sort of story like that. And I try to use that as a way to get them into that career that they envisioned, and providing unique opportunities for them to engage in very cutting edge research or big facilities. They are uniquely prepared to be able to go and contribute into a career, whether that's in industry or the government, to do big and great things and carry that Aggie tradition on, right, into wherever they go. And that gets me really excited to be able to provide those unique experiential opportunities for the students.
I think the students in aerospace engineering are pretty lucky to have you there.
It's a lot of fun.
And I know that they feel the same way about all the other faculty members of that department.
Absolutely.
Susan and I had the opportunity recently to go out to a dedication of a new facility at RELLIS. Go out and see the BAM facility.
BAM.
Why don't you talk to us a little bit about BAM and what it's all about?
So besides the acronym, so it stands for Ballistic Aero Optics and Materials Range. And so if you think about hypersonic systems, you think about those very tough, challenging environments that we described. When we typically look at ground test facilities from a hypersonic standpoint, the hypersonic wind tunnels that we have here at A&M, we lose some of the physics to enable us to look at other physics on the ground. So we have to make some sacrifices. What the BAM allows us to do is actually launch projectiles at hypervelocities, Mach 5 or faster, Mach 10, in a very relevant environment that mimics a flight test or a flight vehicle for hypersonics. And that allows us to investigate all of those physics that a real system would see up in the air. And we can couple that with the expertise that we have on campus to bring modern diagnostics to the problem so that we can measure things in ways that we've never been able to measure before. This is how we can contribute to the accelerating of the technologies and just understanding more and more about the physics and proving out new ideas. And that's a unique capability. It's the biggest facility of its kind in the country. Perhaps in the world, and it gives us very unique opportunities here in Bryan College Station to investigate physics that nobody else can. And then on the other side of the facility, that's all hypersonics activities. On the other side of the facility, we can also use this fully enclosed range where we can introduce weather effects for the hypersonics problems, but we can also introduce high energy laser systems. So things right now, it's very high priority for the DoD to be able to shoot down drones, for example, right, just to protect our warfighters as they're deployed around the world. So this is a big issue right now. We created this facility so that we can propagate high energy laser systems through this controlled range so that we can really understand how well they work in different environments. Can we shoot down a drone if it's cloudy or if it's raining outside? Because we can introduce these controlled and characterized weather effects and environments into this range, but at scale. So think it's right now over 1,000 feet long, and eventually it's going to be double that. And so we can do this all basically inside an enclosed range and very precisely control that environment to answer these questions very quickly and help our partners.
Yeah, and I heard you say that at one point I don't remember where I heard you say this, sometime that day when we were out there, that the entire test sequence takes a third of a second.
Sure. Yeah.
For something going Mach 10.
Yeah. If we were shooting a projectile, what I always tell people is that it's not like a big red button or a big plunger like we were talking about that day. It's a mouse click, but by the time your finger comes off the mouse button, the whole test is done.
So the instrumentation, the sensors you use is all critically important to this.
Absolutely. So it's not very useful if we can't hand a hard drive's worth of data to our customers and partners to go and do something with it. That's the whole reason we built this, right, is to get the data out of the facility. So we built this facility. It's a very unique facility, but all the data instrumentation and all the diagnostics that we have is what makes it useful. and the people, right? It's the people who have the know-how to deploy those things, to be able to measure the things that are critically important so that we can advance the technology.
Yeah, fantastic. So you test projectiles,
Yes.
lasers, and materials that you can test against high-speed projectiles.
Right. So the projectiles, we can hit other objects with those projectiles. So we can do very high energy, hypervelocity impacts to see how the structures or the materials that are getting hit with these projectiles respond to that very, as you can imagine, extreme environment of getting hit with a hypersonic projectile. So there's a lot of diagnostics, a lot of understanding, a lot of material science in there, a lot of engineering work that can go into that environment, and we can create this at scale. So this facility is, the range is about 10 feet in diameter. You can stand inside of it, so we can do very large targets, very large projectiles. The long range part is about 8 feet diameter, so you can still walk down it. So it's a very large facility. It's bigger than the DoD's facilities in the country, right? So you have the Air Force has a facility, and the Army has a facility, and A&M has a facility, and the A&M facility is bigger than the Army's and the Air Forces.
Way it ought to be.
Yeah.
In a third of a second.
Yes, sir.
Bam. Like me on a Twinkie. Very similar results. So what's next? What's next in this particular arena of research? What do you think?
Yeah, there's a lot that this facility is going to enable us to do, and future facilities. There's a couple of large-scale hypersonic wind tunnels that are being built right next to it that was help funded from the state of Texas. So that's going to be new tools in the tool belt for us at A&M and for the country. We are going through the commissioning aspect of BAM right now, so we will soon be operational, ready for customers to come in and start using that. And it's been fun because as customers have realized this facility is coming online, they've reached out to me asking about things that I would have never thought that they wanted to test inside of a facility like this. I've had people talk to me about just batteries, like they want to fly a battery in the projectile, for example, just to subject it to that very abusive high G-loading environment to launch it and then catch that battery at the end just to see how it performs. Other people want to talk about satellite communications, so we can pump the range down this whole range is a vacuum chamber, so we can pump that down to mimic a space environment and then send signals and communications between satellites inside of the range. So as we get this online, there's going to be more and more applications for things like this that we don't know the requirements right now. We don't know what the problem statements are yet. So this is just going to be a very flexible tool for us to have that our researchers here at A&M and our partners will be able to utilize to solve and go after big, tough problems.
Yeah. What I love about RELIS, the whole thing, is this idea that it's a platform.
It is.
That you can put new facilities on, you can move facilities around, you can change facilities over time, but you just keep moving forward in this research enterprise constantly.
Yes.
And the connection to our faculty and our students makes it incredibly special for Texas A&M.
Yeah, it does.
What's the best thing about being an Aggie scientist or an Aggie engineer? You're a little bit of both, I think.
Yeah, I am. So I at Jess, with Jess, I kind of poke at the scientists side of the campus, right? The chemists and the physicists, and I tell them, I like to solve problems. That's why I'm an engineer. I apply the physics to solve problems. But I think all of us, all the researchers that we have here at A&M at the end of the day are problem solvers, right? We're willing to roll up our sleeves. One of the things that I love about the research enterprise at A&M is not only the relationships that I talked about, but the unique identity that we have at A&M, which is hard sometimes to articulate in a research identity or a research vision for that. But I love the idea of cutting edge research, this idea of we're really pushing the envelope, but we haven't forgotten our roots. That we grew up out of the dirt with our hands in the dirt, right? As this agriculture and mechanical school, this senior military college, we're full of grit. We're not willing to give up. We are going to persevere, and we're going to just figure out how to do it. So I love that. My wife's family, they're farmers from South Texas. They're watermelon farmers. Grew up around a lot of farming country. The farmers, they'll figure out how to make it work. Right. So I love that idea of we're just going to figure it out. There's no options. But then you take that and you start talking about artificial intelligence. You're talking about hypersonics. You're talking about whatever the cutting edge things are. But this perseverance, this grit, those things go together, and I think we can uniquely provide that background to these problems to really move the needle and make an impact for the world in a way that we're not even doing yet. Like, we're already making an impact, but I think there's so much more opportunity as we continue to get everybody rowing in the same direction towards these big problems. That gets me really excited. So that's what I love, that we have so much opportunity with everybody around campus and our partners. I love just being part of it, just being part of my little sliver of the pie that I'm able to contribute. Going back to being a student and having these opportunities, just love being able to contribute back to the organization who served me so well.
Fantastic. Talk to prospective students who think they want to be engineers. Why should they come to Texas A&M?
Well, not only are you going to get an excellent technical foundation, be able to have a career of your dreams. I think this is going to be the foundation that's going to prepare you. But I have no problem ever finding jobs for my graduates who I work with, undergrads or graduate students. And my job and the faculty here with those relationships are able to help prepare the students to be successful in their career. If you want to be able to go tackle tough problems, right? If you want to rely on that grit that we have as a culture here at A&M and be loved and surrounded by people around you who care about you and want to support you, this is the place to be, right? So this gets me so excited for prospective students, for the ags that are here, the old ags who reminisce and catch me at the airport. We all talk about this feeling, right? It's hard to describe, but it is really, really unique here on campus. And you're part of the family once you come here, right? You're part of the Aggie family. And it's so much fun because you get the technical background, you get the training, but you also get a family, a huge family that you can rely on for the rest of your life when you wear the ring around. And it's a lot of fun.
Nathan, where are some of your former students now working?
So most recently, industry. So, like I said, my background is in hypersonics. So a lot of the defense industry, defense contractors, the big names that you know about hiring, they snatch up our students left and right because they are really well trained from a technical standpoint. And we don't sugarcoat it for the students. Like, part of the training is to struggle, right? To learn that perseverance and that grit. The feedback we get from our partners are, wow, can we get more Aggies? Because more Aggies on our team means that we are doing better. Like, our team is more productive. We're able to push the envelope the more Aggies we get. So I'm very proud of the work that we do to train the students, whether that's undergraduate or graduate students. But we have Aggies throughout, right? There's Aggies, former students that I have that are working at the national labs, like Sandia National Labs, the Lockheeds, the Raytheons of the world, going into the DOD. We've had people who were commissioned officers that came through here as grad school, and they're off in the Air Force doing big and better things, right? Doing amazing things, leading teams, flying planes, and doing great things for the Air Force and others. So I think no matter where you look across the country and the world, there's former students from mine and others that are making a real impact, and that's a lot of fun to be able to be part of that.
Well, let me just say thank you to you for making that possible for them, and all the other faculty members in your department, and all the folks out at RELLIS. Nathan Tichenor, great Aggie, great engineer.
Thank you.
And I think more than anything else, great educator.
I have a lot of fun doing that. Yeah, I've realized in the course of my career that what gets me most excited is creating the environment for other people to be successful, right? So whether that's the full-time staff, whether that's other faculty, whether that's the students, I just happen to use hypersonic wind tunnels to develop people, right, in those students. And so just happen to use the hypersonic wind tunnels as a tool to do that. And that's what gets me really excited.
Yeah, I don't do that. I wouldn't even know what to do in a hypersonic wind tunnel if I wasn't flying something through it. That I'd like to do.
Yeah, it would be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Nathan, thank you for joining us today, and thanks
you.
so much for everything you do for Aggies and for Texas A&M. It's an honor to meet you, buddy.
Yeah, you too.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
We'll be back in a minute with Susan, and we'll talk a little bit more about Nathan behind his back.
KAMU Studios loves hiring students. We develop aspiring media professionals by providing hands-on experiences and letting them create for audiences of all ages. Recent graduate Maria Moctezuma.
You can come in with zero experience and come out of here a professional. I definitely wouldn't have gotten a lot of the interviews or opportunities I had if it wasn't for this job.
Eager to learn more? We'd love to connect. Email us today, kamu@tamu.edu.
Welcome back, President Welsh. Bam. that was something.
Yeah, it's awesome. He's something.
Yeah. I was sitting there listening to you guys and I was thinking, okay, you combine enthusiasm, brilliance, and grit, and you get Nathan. What an incredible Aggie.
Yeah, I can't imagine how much fun it would be to have him as a professor in your
Yeah.
your aeronautical engineering class.
Yeah, he's so passionate about what he's doing. I was thinking, man, we should send him on the road to recruit.
He'd do a great job.
Yeah. Really, really impressive. So appreciated that. And your interview skills are getting better and better. I noticed how you were able to throw in the notion of a Twinkie into an interview about hypersonics, and that's impressive.
Well, the notion of a Twinkie is in my head 100% of the time.
Well, I'm pretty sure we're leaving here to go get Twinkies. So
We could be doing that.
Just saying. So it's time for my favorite part, and that is our fan base submitting their questions. And we have a really good question from a maybe somewhat cynical listener today. So Joe Pettibon's office recently initiated the Employee Engagement Survey. And as it turns out, some people think sometimes we survey and we don't do anything with the results. So I'd sort of like you to talk through what was the Employee Engagement Survey and what are we going to do with the data that we have now received.
Yeah, I'm one of those cynics. I think we do a lot of that, and especially in big organizations, of asking people what they think and then doing absolutely nothing with it, because it's hard to follow up. The survey is the easy part. The hard part's what follows it. Joe did a great job setting the survey up. The survey is really our first time to baseline the employee base here at the university using this particular survey. And so the turnout rate, the take rate for the survey was not spectacular, but it usually isn't the first time you do it. The only thing that's going to improve that is if we actually do something with the results we did get and convince people that this is a valuable tool that they can use to help us make the university better. The interesting part about the results is that they kind of align with what you and I have heard as we've visited every college on campus here over the last couple of months. And so even though it's a smaller sample size, it's pretty consistent with what we've been hearing. And the pluses were that the work team supervisors, the work teams actually felt like they get along great, the mission's clear, they're empowered to do their work, and that's like a high 80% of people felt that way. The problem gets to be when you get above that work team, and the issues that they identified pretty consistently across the survey was that decisions are made at too high a level, and we need to think about pushing decision authorities down, which I think is a good thing for us to look at. And maybe they're not as timely as they could be. It just takes a long time to get answers sometimes. And the other thing is just communication is not consistent across the university, which is something I completely agree with too. We got to work hard at this all the time. So I think the results are actually pretty good. And I think everybody in the supervisory chain, starting with me, needs to assume that every negative comment in there is about us. It's about me. How do I do my part to fix this? And if we feel that way at every level of the management chain, we can make a difference. The big takeaways from this for me were the university is going to put together an action plan in 2 or 3 of the areas identified as being shortfalls, and we're going to report out on that action plan over the next year until the survey is taken again and see if we can actually make progress in 2 or 3 major areas that identified as issues. And the deans are getting copies, along with the functional leads are getting copies of their individual survey data. They've seen the broader numbers, but they haven't seen it for their school or their function. And they're going to be asked by Joe Pettibon to do exactly the same thing. Build an action plan that highlights maybe 3 items, 3 areas where you think you can improve in your organization, and then let's get after them. And maybe next year we can go back before the survey comes out and say, hey, we actually have made some changes that we think are beneficial. We're looking forward to seeing the results of the survey this year. But let's get after some of this stuff.
Yeah, you bet. And maybe on a future podcast, we'll be talking more about those action plans. Even in the Office of the President, the small unit we have, we're going to do an action plan and think about how we can serve the university better. So more to come on that. One last question. What are you most looking forward to this summer?
This summer? Mm-hmm. Ooh. Probably new student conferences, actually. I love new energy coming to the campus, and I love that people show up here with their families and friends, and they want to learn everything they can before their Aggie experience starts in August. And they're pumped up, they're excited, they're asking hard questions, but they're bringing new talent, new skills, new perspectives. They're bringing great new stuff to Aggieland, and that always fires me up.
Yeah, well, guess what? I'm signed up for a new student conference with my son Vance, who is an incoming freshman. So
There you go.
I will be a new student conference participant. I
Congra-
can't wait.
Congrats, Mom.
Bam.
What's he going to study?
Mays Business School.
Saw what you did there, by the way.
I knew you'd get it. So we're about out of time, but I want to remind our faithful listeners and watchers that if they submit a question that we read on air, they get one of these beautiful At Ease coffee cups. So keep them coming. And remember to submit your questions at tx.ag/atease, and we will see you next month.
Here you go.